I asked you that question. I brought you this issue. I brought it up that I'm at a crossroads with this. Of course it's important to me. Don't try to make it seem like you figured it out or that you are able to pinpoint what my issue was when I brought it to you. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to it if you saw my face, you saw my hair, and you decided to click on this video. Thanks for doing that. My name is Jacy, and I like to do story times on this channel. Today's story time is going to be about my experience getting a psychic reading. So it'll not only be a silly little story time, but also hopefully serve as an overview of this type of spirituality service, and be whether or not I give my recommendation or warn against this type of reading. So hopefully it'll benefit you guys in that way. So if you like story times, or if you like hanging out with me and chit-chatting in the comments with all of us, then make sure to like this video as well as subscribe if you aren't already. I'd love to have you join us for future videos. But with that being said, let's get started on my experience getting a psychic reading. So first things first, let's talk about background, because who just willy-nilly goes and gets psychic readings? Well, I actually, for the past few months, have been exploring the world of spirituality. And by that I mean I bought a couple crystals, I tried out a manifestation journal, I've been looking more at my horoscope kind of thing. And so my knowledge is very surface level. It's more of like, I'm dipping my toes in certain little things and seeing what works for me. So I am by no means researched or educated enough to give you any kind of recommendations there or let you know what's working for me. Because it's more of just like, I'm seeing what I like and what works for me and what brings me comfort. So because I was doing all this research, Google just likes to stalk my freaking life and then pound me with capitalism, because I just started getting all these targeted ads for different spirituality-based services and products. But I received one ad talking about psychic readings in Los Angeles, and that immediately piqued my interest because I thought, you know, I am still very new to this whole spirituality world, and I say I would more be on the side of skepticism, where if I were to go to a psychic reading, that could perhaps confirm this whole spirituality world and encourage me to continue studying it. Or it might be like, you know what? I knew it. You're a fraud. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I will get a psychic reading. That actually sounds kind of fun. So then I began the actual research of finding a local psychic to get a reading from. Now, oh my gosh, you guys, let me tell you this. When I hear the term like psychic reading, or when I think about getting a psychic reading, I picture it as you kind of walk into a room and there's candles like dangling from the ceiling. It smells nice. It's got this mysterious aura. You walk in, you sit down, you don't even tell the psychic anything, and they're like, I can sense you're having trouble with your love life. George, is that your husband's name? Yes. You're also getting messages from a deceased loved one. Was your mother's name Martha? Yes, Martha is talking to you. And you're sitting there like, oh my God, it's real. I didn't tell her anything and she knew everything about me. That's not the kind of psychic readings that are prevalent in Los Angeles. Those types of psychic readings do exist, and those are very notorious psychics, where a reading from them is like thousands of dollars, and it's kind of almost for celebrities or rich business people at this point, because they were way out of my price range. So I was a little disappointed because I was like, oh man, that was kind of the psychic reading I expected, but it turns out there are a vast variety of different type of psychic readings. That one does exist, but there are also birth chart readings, there's tarot card readings, there's palm readings, there's readings where you drink from a coffee cup and they read your coffee grinds like freaking Harry Potter. It's nuts. I actually considered that one, but she was too far away. But so I'm kind of looking at like my budget for this and how much I actually wanted to spend, and also based on what I actually wanted to learn and what the result I wanted to be from my psychic reading, I decided to go with a tarot card reader, because that to me is the next most familiar form of psychic reading. I've never gotten a tarot card reading, and I figured, hey, that might be kind of fun. So then I hop on Yelp.com and I start searching for local tarot card readers. And I found this one reader who not only had great Yelp reviews, but she also had a sliding scale of payment, which I thought was interesting. So basically for an hour tarot card reading, it was between $50 and $75, and that was dependent on what you are able to pay or what you kind of think she deserves and how the service actually went. And I thought that was super awesome, because I was like, hey, that just shows how passionate she is about the reading itself. It's not so much about the monetary gain she gets from this, but she was really focusing on helping people in times of need, where it was just like, hey, I'm here to help you get your reading and get clarity. And if you can't pay the full amount, that's totally okay. I just want you to be able to self self-reflect and get the most out of this experience. So I really like that about her. She was also located just a few blocks away from me, which was a big selling point because I could walk to her. But that was a big part of why I will not be naming this actual tarot card reader. One, because I don't want to bring any kind of negative attraction to a business if I don't have to, and because I don't want you guys to know where I live, okay? So I messaged her and I made my appointment, and she messaged me back saying like, okay, you are confirmed. So have you ever had a tarot card reading before? And I was like, nope. And so she messages me back and she says, okay, so how it works is I got the half-hour long reading. So it was between $25 and $50, again, sliding scale. She said that that's enough for 3 to 5 questions. So I had to prepare the questions I wanted to ask the cards. And so I was kind of thrown off because, again, I've never done this type of service. I thought it'd be very much so that I walk in, she pulls the cards, and then she applies it to my life. And she kind of makes her psychic medium guess as to how it applies to my life. Turns out that's not what a tarot card reading is. If that were the case, it would kind of like you wouldn't be getting the most out of it because she would just be guessing things about your life instead of you actually working through a lot of your own problems. So I had some work to do because I was like, oh shoot, I have to ask the cards questions. What the heck am I going to ask? So I asked her, I said, well, what types of questions am I supposed to ask the cards? And she said, well, where do you feel like you're stuck in life? Where do you feel like you're at a crossroads? And where do you need to seek guidance from? Those are usually the areas where you need to start. So I was immediately thinking like, okay, well, you know, I'm kind of at a weird place in my career where I am transitioning out of my full-time job and I'm going to start pursuing the entertainment industry. And I don't know what that means, you guys. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to ask some career questions. So I give it a Goog and I'm like, what are some good questions to ask tarot cards regarding your career? So I actually wrote a full-on sheet here of certain questions that I wanted to ask the cards. And so I have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions, knowing that we wouldn't get to them, but that way I could kind of take them to her and get her guidance on the best questions to ask. So I felt fully prepared for my tarot card reading. The day arrives for my appointment, and this is so silly, I just wanted to tell you guys this, because I still had in my head that she would be using all the information that I give her to interpret the cards, and I didn't want to just give her everything, you know? I am still kind of on the side of skepticism where I was like, all right, you're a psychic, prove it. So to me, what that meant was I dressed in attire that I would never wear. I put on this strangely grungy outfit. Like I put on combat boots. I wore like all black and I was trying to be like tough because I was like, I don't want to walk in there all bubbly and smiley being like, hi, how are you today? Toodles. And that way she would like know everything about me. So I made a point to like dress really grungy. I was not looking that cute. And I was like, okay, when I go in there, I'm not going to be as bubbly and outgoing as I normally am. So I walked to her place of business and I was surprised to learn it was just her apartment. And so I was kind of expecting more of a storefront because that's what all of the other businesses were on Yelp. But no, this was just out of her own apartment. And so at first I was concerned because I was like, am I about to get murdered? But no, I knew based on the Yelp reviews and I did my research that no, this was a very trustworthy source. Plus, I was also like, oh, that also makes sense why she was in my price range because she doesn't have the overhead costs of paying rent in a building. She just does it from her apartment. Again, kind of trying more so to help people as opposed to just make a bunch of money from it. So I was like, okay, this is fine. So she comes, she meets me outside and we're walking into her apartment and I'm trying to be like quiet and stoic so that way she can't get any points from my personality. And I was like gurgling inside trying to not say something or make conversation because she was very like shy and reserved. And so I ended up making the comment where she was wearing green and black like I was. And I was like, oh, look, we're wearing matching colors. And she was like, oh, yes, we are. And I'm like, oh, I just want to ask, so how long have you lived in LA? How long have you been doing tarot? Like, what else do you do? You know? But I was like, no, don't give anything away. So it was a very awkward walk back to her apartment. But that's when we began the actual tarot card reading. All right, I'm off to the side because I'm going to be putting stuff here, so bear with me. It'll be like a lesson plan, like I'm Vanna White instead of Jacy White. So I give her my list of questions and I say, okay, how does this work? And she says, well, we're just going to ask the cards each one of your questions. So she takes a look and she says, all right, I think the first question you have on here is great. Let's start with that one. And that question was, am I pursuing the right career at this time? She takes a look at this question. She goes, this is a great question, but I think we should rephrase it into what is the best type of career for you? And so I was like, you're the boss. Let's try it. We shuffled the deck. I split the deck and she pulls 3 cards. The first card she pulls is the Ace of Swords, and she lets me know that this is the highest form of intellect in terms of a career. So she said right away, the career path for you is something where you can take things that are super disorganized and that would overwhelm people, and you see that as a challenge, as a puzzle, and you can immediately organize it. And you find power in strength in your intelligence. And so right away I was like, wrong, I'm trying to get into the creative field. That was a terrible piece of advice. I don't want to use my intelligence for a job. That sounds hard. But we go to the next card, which was the Strength card. So she says, interesting, interesting. See this woman here? See how she's trying to tame this bear, but she's not using force? That's like you with your career. You are able to work with the disorder. You're able to work with the ferocious monster and create order out of disorder without fighting against it by working with them and taming the bear. And I'm like, yeah, yes, absolutely. The next card that she pulls is the World card. And she goes, I see. What this World card is telling you is that there's much more possibilities for a career than what you think. That there is a bigger career path out there than just based on the skills that you have. Essentially, there are so many different career paths for you that the world is your oyster. What? So essentially the question that I asked was, what's the career path for me? And it just says something that uses your intelligence, but there's so many different possibilities. Good luck. And so I was a little deflated from this first round because I was like, that was so vague, that was so broad, that didn't help me answer anything. I kind of wanted her to be like, what's the correct career path for you? Forget about acting, forget about modeling, keep pursuing YouTube because that's where you'll be happiest. But no, she was just like, you can make order out of disorder. Good job. I don't know. And then another super funny thing that she said that I almost like audibly chuckled was she goes, wow, that's interesting. You pulled 2 power cards. That means the cards are telling me that this is a very important question for you, that you are really at a crossroads with this. So that's good to know. I asked you that question. I brought you this issue. I brought it up that I'm at a crossroads with this. Of course it's important to me. Don't try to make it seem like you figured it out or that you are able to pinpoint what my issue was when I brought it to you. That first round got me the most heated, but it gets better, just wait. So we take a look at my questions and decide the next question to ask the cards is, what is blocking me from achieving success? And I kind of stole that one from Google, but it's basically like, hey, I want to achieve so much in my career, but I haven't achieved it yet. What's blocking me? So we pull our next 3 cards, and the first 2 cards look similar, but different. I pulled a Pip card and the Page of Swords. So she compares these 2 cards. She goes, this is interesting. Take a look at these 2 cards. Do you see how in the first one, he is kind of like working in the fields, but he's using a staff that is very similar to the objects he's trying to cut down. He doesn't have the proper tools and the proper instruments to make it work. But if we look at the Page of Swords, he can take his sword and easily cut all of those down in one fell swoop. So what this means is that they're 2 weapon cards, but it's showing you that one is a suitable weapon and one is a not suitable weapon. And essentially you have been using the wrong weapon in whatever you are doing and you need to find the correct one. You need to find your sword. And then the third card was the High Priestess card. And I was like, I know that one. That's a good one, right? And all she kind of said about the High Priestess card was she said that the priestess has a sword, but she knows when to use it and when to put it down. So essentially, I need to find the right tool, but then I also need to figure out when to not use the right tool. And so she said, this was also really interesting. She's kind of like, I keep doing this motion like she's stroking her chin in thought and contemplation. She's not. She just was kind of like, this is interesting. The cards are saying that you need to look at the tools that you're using currently and assessing when you get defensive and when you get frustrated, and that will be your clue to realize that that's the wrong tool. So how she interprets this is that when you're feeling productive, when you're feeling efficient, take a look at what you did to feel that way. But then when you start to get frustrated, you start to get defensive, and you start to be like, this isn't working. Stop, pause, and reflect on what it was that you did differently and realize that is where my issue lies. And that will be your answer into what is blocking you from achieving career success. So this was kind of the first point where I realized that's interesting, because what she's doing and what tarot card reading in general is doing that I didn't realize is that they are kind of giving you these vague answers. They are kind of giving you these super broad possibilities, but they're making you do the work in terms of applying it to your specific situation. They're making you solve it on your own, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I'm gonna get into that a little bit more. And so as she's saying this, I am starting to have like sparks go off in my head and being like, you're right. I can see where I can apply this, you know? I get frustrated, for example, when a YouTube video doesn't do as well, but it's because it'll be one of those YouTube videos that I do for myself and not for my audience. And it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's why I'm not achieving exponential growth on YouTube, because I'm not providing valuable content. So that is something that I need to perhaps self-reflect on and not just be like, no, I do what I want. So I started to get the idea that like, okay, this is about applying things to my situation despite how broad the cards are in terms of their interpretation. The next question we decided to ask the cards was, what actions can I take to achieve career success? This round was the first round where I was like, oh, that was spot on. So she pulls her 3 cards, and the very first card is the 3 of Swords Pip card. So she goes to interpret that card, and she said, what this card is telling you is that something has happened in your life that you're kind of heartbroken about. And she said, it's not necessarily to do with love or relationship, but it's more so that you had really high hopes for something. So you kind of committed to it, and now it's not what you expected, and you're disappointed. But you don't really want people to know that. So you're a little bit heartbroken inside and guarded because it just wasn't what you expected. And I kind of sat up straight because I was like, whoa, that is absolutely spot on. Because to me, what that meant was, as you guys know, I recently signed a modeling contract, and I think I got very ahead of myself. I got super excited that I was like, I'm quitting my job. I'm a model now, baby. I'm going into the entertainment industry. And having a modeling contract is not nearly as lucrative as what I thought. It's not nearly as booking jobs back and forth or having consistent work. Not at all. It's something that I've been dealing with like internally, because I'm like, shoot, I just went out and told the world this big exciting news, and it's like, I'm not really getting that much work. It's not at all what I thought it was going to be, but I don't want people to know because I already made that announcement. So once she pulled that card, that was the first one where I was like, whoa, that is accurate to my situation. So how she interpreted this card in terms of the question, which is what actions can I take? She says that I have not dealt with the emotions of that heartbreak, and that I really need to face those emotions and kind of turn it into a strength. So again, for me, I'm thinking, yep, I have been facing this disappointment, and that's something that I've been avoiding because I feel embarrassed, you know? And so those are some feelings that I will need to go home and reflect on. The next card that she pulled was the Magician card. And I was like, ooh. Honestly, I wish I would have pulled like the Magician card in the career field one, so that she'd be like, you're a showman. You are on the stage, baby. You're going to be a star. You're a magician. But no, I pulled the Magician for what actions can I take to make my career happen. And so I was like, oh no, I need fucking magic to make my dreams come true. Dang it. And she said, yes, kind of. You, as the Magician card, what actions you can take is using your platform to achieve career success. And she used that word. She said, use your platform as a public figure to achieve success. And so that's when I was like, that is content creatory verbiage. You might be onto something there. She didn't go into super depth on this Magician card. She kind of just like said that, and we moved on to the next card. So I wish we would have gotten more into that, because I was like, wait, I want to hear more about that. Like, what does this Magician card have to do? But then the next card was the 10 of Coins, baby. Dollar bills, y'all. Money. So what actions can I take to achieve success? She said that what this card is telling you, that you're kind of like worried about money, and that all you think about is that once you have a certain amount of money, you can relax. And again, I was like, this is getting scary, because that's all I've been thinking about these days. All I can think about is, okay, if I quit my full-time job, I just need to replace my income through content creation, and then I'll be okay. I don't want to be a millionaire. I don't want to be driving Ferraris and going to $1,000 meals. I just want to replace my income so I can do what I love. And she said that the coins are telling me that you just want enough money to relax. And I'm like, this is getting spooky, you guys. But again, the question was, what actions can I take to achieve career success? And she said that I need to see my finances not in terms of money, but in terms of my accomplishments. That I need to take stock of all of my achievements and express gratitude for those, and kind of in my head convert it to currency. And so I kind of just got goosebumps, because I was like, whoa, that's kind of interesting, because she is so right in the sense that, you know, success isn't defined by how much money you can make and, you know, the paycheck at the end of the month. It is really about the impact that you make on others. Or it could be the fact that, hey, I was able to follow my dreams and move to LA. I live in a killer apartment. I have very close friends and family. That alone makes me so rich that I need to start appreciating that more in terms of success rather than just my finances. And so I was like, that's interesting. And so I wrote this down because I thought this was really interesting how she said this. So she goes, as a little summary of these cards, we asked, what actions can you take to feel career success? Currently, you feel like a failure in your career because you have faced disappointment, but you have achieved so much in your life that you need to realize that, take stock on that, and be proud of yourself. Once you do that, you can channel that disappointment, channel your new gratitude, and then you can become the magician. That's spooky, right? That is spot on. Like, that's not something that, I feel like, yes, that is still very vague and broad, but that is also something that directly applied to me. And that's when I was kind of being like, this, you might be onto something here with your little tarot cards, because that was very, very spot on. So she looks at the clock, and again, I had only got the half-hour reading, and she said, we have enough time for one more question. And so I said, okay, that's enough career questions. I have enough to reflect on. Let's go with something random. So we take a look at my list, and I'd actually put a couple of random things that I had seen on Google on here that are just holistically for reading as opposed to very direct. So we decided to ask, what are my spirit guides trying to tell me? Now this question is interesting because I have been researching like in terms of spirit guides, and this can mean so many different things, have so many different interpretations to every single individual. So I just wanted to see what the cards would say. But she said, I like this question. Would you like to ask the runes instead? And I said, the runes, what are those? She said, usually with questions involving more spirituality, I like to ask the runes, which are just little stones of the old Nordic language. And I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. Pulls out a little tin of all these little wooden bits. She goes, all right, go ahead and pull 3 runes. And so I was like, hoo-hoo-hoo. So I dug around in there and I pulled my 3 runes. So the first rune that I pulled was the Douglas rune, and that means night or day or balance. The second one that I pulled was the Isa rune, and that means stillness. The third one that I pulled was the Manas rune, which means Odin's horse, or essentially a messenger. So she interpreted these 3 runes as my spirit guides telling me that I need to find more balance in my life, that I need to establish more routines so that way I can further find stillness. Once I'm able to establish more patterns in my life, be able to balance my life more, and get more of that stillness, I will be able to mount Odin's horse and ride the steed wherever I need to go off to personal or career success. And so this one was kind of interesting too, because I thought, yeah, that's another spot on one where I have been trying to establish routines for forever. I'm one of those people where I'll get really good at a routine and have it down for like 3 days. And then I will fall off the wagon and not get back onto it or have any motivation to find a new pattern for weeks at a time. And so I was like, dang, my spirit guides even notice that I can't get a routine and I can't find work-life balance. Yeah, touche, spirit guides. So that was just another interesting reading, and I'm glad we tried something different too, to see like all the different types of methods that can interpret some of the questions you might have. So this part's interesting because I stumped her. So we finished the rune reading and she goes, all right, well, you have a minute left. Like, do you have any questions about the overall reading? Anything else I need to clarify? And so I asked, yes, I actually do have a question. I have been kind of doing research into spirituality, and something that really interests me is the law of attraction. So the law of attraction, if you guys aren't aware, it's kind of like thinking consistently positive thoughts in terms of your career, your personal life, relationships, everything. And you attract the energy that you put out. So if you're thinking positive thoughts about those things, the universe will oblige and give it to you like a big old magnet. And so I've been doing a lot of research into that, and a lot of it says that you can't even think negative thoughts. Like, you can't even think about those bad things because you in turn are attracting it. And so I said, yeah, a lot of your reading said that I haven't dealt with a lot of maybe some disappointments or some negative feelings towards things, and that I really need to face those and deal with them and harness them and channel it into a lot of my actions. And I said, how do I do that while also abiding by the law of attraction, where I'm not really supposed to be immersing myself in that, because in doing so, I'm attracting it, if that kind of makes sense. And so she sits back and she was like, that's a good point. So she was like, let's pull one more card. So I go ahead and I pull one more card, and it was the Queen of Swords. And she goes, another weapon card. She goes, I don't think I've pulled this many weapon cards in one reading. This is very combative, but not in a bad way. So how she interpreted this is that she said the Queen of Swords is a very disciplined person, that she is this very public figure, and that she can't outwardly show her emotions because it might make her seem weak. So she said that the cards were telling me that I need to face a lot of my feelings on my own, but I need to be disciplined in not letting them overcome my external energy. So I can think those thoughts, I can have those negative feelings and kind of deal with them, but I need to be disciplined in realizing when they start overtaking my overall attitude and when they start changing my energies. So she says, if I were to give my recommendation, try meditating a little bit more. We're kind of thinking about, yeah, that happened, that hurt, but how can we improve on it? How can we turn that energy into a good thing? Again, how can we channel this into being that queen-like person and using it? So she kind of like, the way she described it, she didn't really know how to interpret it. And I was like, I stumped you, didn't I? Because that was a good question. And she really didn't know how to answer it. So I feel like for that one, she was kind of just grasping at straws and didn't give me a very clear interpretation. So if I'm explaining this interpretation in a weird way, it's because she didn't really have a good answer. So I was like, gotcha! Nice. And that was it. That was the end of our session. So I paid the full amount, $50, because again, it's based on what you can afford and I don't want to take advantage of her. And I enjoyed the reading. I was like, that was very interesting. It was my first time and I appreciated her guiding me through it, but also because she actually did give me some extra time in answering that last question. So I really did appreciate that. And that was the end of my tarot card reading. So now let's talk about my overall recommendations and thoughts with this spirituality service. So again, I thought my tarot card reading was going to be totally different in the sense that I'd be going in there as a completely blank slate and I'd give her no inclination about a lot of the struggles that I'm having, and that she'd pull cards and apply it directly to all of my obstacles in life. And I'd be like, whoa, oh my God, spot on. How'd you know? You are a psychic. Good job. But it wasn't that at all. I actually had to do most of the work in terms of asking the cards questions about my own struggles and interpreting them in a way that made sense for me. But that's not a bad thing. I actually think that's much better than what I thought it was. Because in the way that I originally thought it was more of like, I don't know, like a game that like, how can I stump the psychic, or how can I disprove everything that she's saying and continue being a skeptic? Whereas the way that it actually was, it really does force you to reflect on the issues that you're having and decide what's best for you based on some of the interpretations that the cards are giving you. So I think it brought to light a lot of the issues that I was having, where it was like, yeah, I'm kind of struggling with my career. Maybe I'll ask that. Where now it was like, yeah, I actually do have a lot of demons that I'm fighting in terms of that. And yeah, there are some ways that I could improve it. And I have been kind of avoiding certain areas or topics because it doesn't make me feel good. But now she is telling me, you know what, Jacy, you do need to make a routine. You do need to be more efficient. You need to face some of the disappointment that you felt, but you need to channel it and do better in your career so that way you can achieve that success that you're looking for. So it actually made me face things that I wasn't expecting to face, if that makes sense. And something that I wrote down in my notes is that I didn't at first like the idea that I was already putting biases on the cards and I was telling the cards what I wanted to hear. But that kind of made it better than just a stranger telling me what my issues are, because that would be the case if she's just telling you, yep, guessed right, I win. But it's not making you face the actual problem. By putting my own biases on the cards, it is making me do the work in terms of fixing the problems that I have. So one thing that I wrote that I think is the biggest takeaway of all of this is that tarot card reading is not about divination, it's about self-reflection. It is perfect for those times where you are at a crossroads and you need help making a decision, because it's going to force you to make the best decision for yourself. So would I recommend a tarot card reading? Not necessarily. I don't recommend a tarot card reading if you go into it with the mindset that, oh, this is fake, like this is stupid, I'm going to try to stump her, you know? You need to go in there with an intention that you are gonna finally solve a problem, or if you are feeling stuck or at a crossroads, that you are gonna get some clarity on which path to take, on which direction to go. So a tarot card reading is a great way to kind of find some guidance in something that you overall need to make the decision on. Is it great for everybody? No, because it involves a level of introspection that honestly you could get for free. You don't necessarily need to go to a psychic to get you to make a decision, you know? Like, I feel like I could have realized a lot of this stuff on my own, but it was more so finally facing up to a difficult task and being like, all right, it's time to take action. So it's not something that you need to pay for. It's not something that you can't do on your own. So again, it is sort of a way that like, I can just do that by journaling, or yeah, I know my issues. I don't need to work through it. But if you just need that little extra nudge, if you just need that more spiritual element where it's kind of like somebody else is giving you guidance, then I do think it is beneficial for that purpose. Will I be getting another tarot card reading? No, I don't think so. I think I would like to explore other types of spirituality services. I'd love to get my palm read or my birth chart read, or there's another person that does like character readings and aura readings just based on looking at you. And I was like, that sounds fun. But again, I don't think that I personally need to pay for services to get me to really face those issues. But I also realized that it is making me take more efficient action after doing it. And that is an advantage. So actually, I'm going to change my answer. Would I get another tarot card reading? Maybe. If I'm ever feeling stuck again, it really did help give some clarity in some of the obstacles that I'm facing and how I can better challenge them and get better results. So that was my experience getting a tarot card reading. I hope it was not only just a fun little story time, but also interesting in case this is something you want to explore or if you think you might benefit from getting your own psychic reading. I kind of thought that this would be more of like a my psychic scammed me type of video. It wasn't. I think it was beneficial. I had a great time and a great experience, and I hope that that came across. I'm not giving this tarot card reader a negative review by any means, but I just hope that this video was interesting. So if you've ever had a psychic reading, definitely let me know down in the comments below. Or if you think that this is a waste of money and, you know, I absolutely wasted my time and it is all just a scam, let me know too, because I'd like to hear more of those thoughts, because I think that was my original kind of thought process, but I wasn't able to put it into words. So I'd love to hear from you guys. But I thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you for sticking around long enough and for joining me on this YouTube journey. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Toodles! I actually had a friend once who tried to pursue a career as a psychic, but she couldn't see a future in it. It's a little psychic joke. You guys get it? It's because she couldn't like see a future in it, like psychics.